We're going to create a fire using a flint striker and a piece of charcloth that I created. This is a tinder bundle. It's got mostly dried grass and some willow that I've opened up. The key here, there's some dried pine needles in there. The key here is surface area. You want to get this open, let air get in there because we're going to be blowing in there on our coal. This is a Strike Force fire starter and flint. And this little black piece here is a cotton piece of shirt that has already been dried out and will take a spark like you wouldn't believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera over to the side. I'm going to strike up onto this. The spark will hit that and it'll become a super heated coal. I'm going to put it into this and we're going to create fire. We'll drop it into the fire pit and we're going to create more charcloth. I'll have a video on how to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the charcloth here. We're going to put it down into the middle of our tinder bundle here. We're going to spark it up. One spark's all you need. Get a good one on there, get a couple. See, we got a little bit of smoke coming out of here now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close it up. Add oxygen. Now we're going to add small tinder. Okay, it's been a few minutes and we got a small fire going. I cut it because you really got to feed it and feed it and feed it and feed it to get it up to this point. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this burn down all the way to a nice bed of hot coals. I'm going to use this tin here and I'm going to take some pieces of my cotton white t-shirt and we're going to go ahead and make charcloth. So it's kind of a reverse video. But I'll be back in, probably half an hour once I get a good bed of coals. I'd like to point out on another note that if you were out in the wild and you got a fire going and you found some of these dry willows over here, you take a whole one and you can light the end of it and it'll smolder and smolder and smolder and smolder for hours. So if you ever need to get a new fire going, you can use that as a transport method for your flame, without having to create, it's basically a fire bundle is what they call them. But the willows work great. They're always dry. It's kind of like dryer lint. If you're ever going to go out into the wild, it's like picking the cotton off your socks or whatnot. Try to have a good method to start a fire. I prefer the charcloth method. It's just easier and you can get things going when there's a lot of wind or there's wet material around. Okay, let's go over the method for creating charcloth. First, you're going to need a tin of some kind. This is just some cheap dollar tin I picked up at Joann's. You're going to have to put a circle in the top, as you can see here, just enough to let the smoke out. And this is going to be really important in the creation process because it takes all of the combustibles out of the cloth. So I'm just going to lay a few pieces in here. I'm going to close it up and looks like the fire is almost ready for me to set it in. I want to be able to set it directly on and not to the side. That's important because you want your heat source to come directly from underneath and be even all the way around. I mentioned earlier that the willow would be a great source of flame. Now this has been in here the entire time that we've been doing the video, and watch what happens when I add air. Where'd it go? See, it's still combustible. Willow is one of your best resources that you have for not only starting with a flint and spark, but also transporting your flame. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to set it right smack in the middle of those coals there, push it down as much as we can. Now what you're going to notice happen here is in that hole, in a little bit, you're going to start to see like a smokestack going on. The smoke that you see now is just from the wood and the coals and whatnot. But as the charcloth begins to cook, can actually see a little bit of it, and I'm not sure if you can pick it up on the camera or not. But it'll start smoking real good. I know this is a long and boring part. In fact, you know what, I'll skip and come back to it in just a minute. Okay, I've taken the tin out of the fire. I think it could use a little bit more cooling down, but I'm not going to be able to show you me opening it, so I'm just going to come to the opening because I need both hands and I have no tripod for this camera. And here you have it. We got some blackened charcloth. Some of it is a little underdone, but it'll still burn just as good. Let me try and back up the camera here. See how it's nice and solid black, except for this tiny area up there, but it's still gonna catch a spark. It looked like all my pieces came through just as good as I wanted them to. And the nice thing about this Strikeforce starter is it has this opening in the hilt, and I just store all my charcloth in there, and it's watertight, waterproof, and anywhere I go, you know, I always have this with me when I go in the woods or I go hiking, and I'll always be able to get a spark or get a flame going. And the bad thing about matches is, you know, sometimes you run out, or sometimes it's a lighter and you just can't get that heat that you need, even on a wet pile of debris. This thing burns about, I think it was 2,300 degrees. Match doesn't even come near that, nor does a lighter. So get one of these, and you're all set. Thanks for watching.